Welcome back, guys. My name is Legit, and today I have a little video for you. So this time I decided to record myself narrating the screen because why not? And I'm sorry for the poor video quality, but I'm using my headset, so yeah. So to begin, I was watching PewDiePie's video one day, and it showed him playing a game that was sort of sad. It had these things called friends, or at least I called them friends, and it had a third-person camera, text, buttons, etc. And I just wanted to make my own little version of the game. So I started off in school and I just started making a sketch of what the game would look like. I tried off by doing some of the logic in my head, and the rules were pretty simple. The game had to be about the player wanting to hug their friend, the friends walking away from the player, and the friends eventually falling off the platform and dying. Yeah, pretty severe, but you know, fun. So after doing all of the sketching and logic in my head, I decided to move on to the next step. I started to make the models for the player, friend, and the platform. To do this, I used Blender. The player would be red and black, and a cubey texture, and isn't he cute? The friend would be the color my friend told me, which is turquoise and black. And not gonna lie, but they look kinda creepy. The platform would be cone shape and of course green because, well, you know, grass. And eventually I'm not gonna use any of these models because you'll see. So the next step would be to render everything. So I already had the framework code done and the terrain code done, so we're going to start with the rendering the friends. To do this, I need to make the friend class, and this would hold most of the friends methods or functions. This would, you know, do the updating, the rendering, etc. It would also be inherited from the object class that would hold the position, the scale values, and all other stuff. I also made a move method that would move the entity in any position that I wanted it to by giving it the appropriate values. And then I do the rendering code and voila, I'm not done. Next we need to create these friends in the playing state, and to do this I need to use unique pointers and a vector. A vector because, well, it's going to hold more than one friend, and unique pointers because I'm just used to it, it's a habit, don't ask. So next I wanted to make the spawn positions of the players random. I also do the first test of me doing the movement vector. So I never really did any collision detection with 3D objects before, and without consulting the internet, I decided to figure out the logic by myself. So I tried using similar code from SFML and Direct class, and I started off by inferencing their code and making my own tweaks. I didn't want to worry about the Y coordinate because, well, let's face it, the Y coordinate sucks. So I made the getBounds method, which would return a vec4 of left min, left max, right min, and right max. Basically the position of the x and y subtracted or added by the scale value. And to make it even more confusing for myself, I decided to implement a bound system where it would be a number and that would be like the outside boundary of that thing. It didn't work. So after writing the code, it seems that it didn't work. and that's bad. So I tried using the best weapon of choice, which is basically writing stdc out test in all caps, and then writing /n. So this is after doing all this, I decided to go on the Hobson server and ask for help. I wrote, "Can someone please help me? Thanks." People helped me out, but I was too stupid to understand what they were saying, so I just left it alone for now, but everything they told me was in the back of my head. So I woke up the next day and decided to work on collision detection. I found some code online from learnopengl.com, which is pretty much where I learned OpenGL, so I don't really know why I didn't check them first, and changed it up from XY to XZ because, let's face it, Y sucks. And then after writing all this code and getting it done, I did a quick test and voila, the collision detection works like a charm. So after doing all this, I realized that the code was very messy, so I decided to remove the old collision detection code and also implement rotation code. The rotation code would be responsible for rotating the friends to constantly look at me. To work on this effect, I believe that the angle of the friend would rotate towards the camera, and this would be by getting the yaw or the horizontal movement of the camera. But it seemed that it was too fast and it did not work, so this is something I would eventually fix. The next thing I decided to do was implement gravity, and this would be for the purpose of having the friends fall off the platform when they're not on it anymore. It would make it seem as they fell down and never to be seen again. I would use the move method I created earlier to do smooth transmissioning, and then using simple math and logic to determine the Y position. After this, I also wanted to do the exact same thing I did in my Space Invaders project, and this is to delete the friends once it falls off the platform. This would not only save memory, but help with the game ending. To be completely honest, I only have some idea of how this thing works, but not exactly though. I want to thank Karoma for creating this code when I was making Space Invaders, because if it wasn't for him, a lot of my games wouldn't work. Basically, it would check if any friend is off the platform, and if it is, it would delete or erase it from the vector. After doing the deletion sequence, I decided to make code to determine if the friend is on the platform or not. If it is, nothing will happen. If it's not, then the player will be deleted. So the deletion and the platform collision detection would go hand in hand with each other. The code is very similar to the code with the player and friend, but remove the player with the platform. Since I managed to get the collision detection working for the platform, I also wanted to do the first test with the winning system. I started off by having a variable holding the total amount of friends, and whenever they collided with the player as a test, it would remove one from the variable. However, it was too fast and too inefficient, so I decided to go the easy way out and do it whenever the player collided with the friend's position would be off the platform, meaning that the friend would be deleted. When they are deleted, the total number of classes inside the friend vector would decrease by 1. So I would have an accurate amount of friends left by doing this. And you can see this in action. On the right, I'm going into the friends and deleting them, and on the left, it is displaying the amount of friends left in the vector. So since my school closed, my logic has been flawed and my brain not really challenged, so it kind of went dumb. So simple logic as booleans confused the heck out of me. I was stuck with several problems with the friend being on the platform or not, so I decided to fix this. I also decided to remove the idea of having a third-person camera. Off camera, I tried implementing it and it did not go well. So I opted for a first-person camera, which I believe gives off the same sense of feeling. And with the first-person camera, I needed to figure out the movement vector. The first test of the movement vector didn't really go well. I wouldn't really call this as a movement vector since it's not really doing anything. Basically what it did is it would get the key that the player was pressing on and do the opposite effect of the friend. So if I press W, which is forward for the player, the friend would do S, which is backwards. So it would seem that the friend is moving away from me. This wouldn't work for 3 reasons. 1, rotation would be sort of tricky to implement. 2, it wouldn't look natural. And 3, the code looked horrible. It just wasn't the correct way. I eventually opted for asking for help, and this time to a friend of mine. He told me to follow these images and do the friend position minus the player position, which would be the vector length, and also get the rotation too. The previous code that I made, the rotation code, wouldn't be needed. I followed what he said, and following the images, I eventually got it. The directional vector or the movement vector. However, I did not exactly understand the logic and it still didn't work, so he decided to call me. So finally, I managed to get the movement vector working. However, this was accomplished by pressing F on the keyboard and it doing the rest. It wasn't really automated, so something had to be done about this. Unfortunately, the clip of me doing this was missing and I can't show it. Basically what I did was I got the vector length between the friend and the player, and then I did an if statement that checked if the vector length was close to this value. Then it would move the friend away from the player. As you can tell, this video is very disorganized, so here we are back at gravity. I don't really have much to explain here because all I did was get frustrated at figuring out why this didn't work, and I kept restarting the program hoping for a different solution, so I just eventually deleted it. As I said before, the friend would be removed once he is off the platform, so I decided to do this the easy way and determine if the player was dead. If the player was dead, which is basically off the platform, he would be deleted. I also changed the platform to be a thin square so that the math would be simple. I removed all the collision detection, and the reason is that I didn't really need it anymore. The movement vector handled the spacing between the player and the friends would be considered dead if they are off the platform instead of not colliding with it. And since the platform is now squared, I could do an easy if statement to see if the x or z position of the friend is higher or lower than the scale value of the lava. I also decided to work on the player positionings, as you can see here. Since the platform is now a square and not a cone, the scale values had to change, meaning the new static y had to be found. I also decided to make the random positions for the friends much more bigger. So after many debacles, I asked for help, and someone finally gave me code that would use the GLM lookat method to make the friend constantly look at the player. And it works like a charm. I mean, it looks scary, and oh no. So after doing all this work, I decided to work on cleaning the code to make it look nicer. This would include adding a new keyboard system so that the keys are no longer choppy, and adding a new ending. The ending basically consists of me changing the color of the sky from a nice blue color to a red death color. It'll basically state that your friends would rather die than hug you. So a final touch to any game is you need lava. And lava is something that this game really needed. So I went on Blender, I created a lava model, I implemented a class, put it in playing state, and voila, there it is. So there you go, guys, a finished game? Yeah, let's call it a game, it doesn't matter. It was really fun and challenging creating this creepy and horrible game, but I like it. It's a whole lot better than my Minecraft clone, which was slow and bad. This made me go through many phases such as collision detection, movement, and overall game experience. It was nice working on this, and I will work on it more because it's definitely far from completed. But this is the first finish of the game. So there you guys have it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next few months. Bye!